So today we're going to be going over all the different Gojos we currently have in the game, that being Domain Expansion Gojo, that being Teen Gojo, Hollow Purple Gojo, and then normal generic Gojo. I have them up here in terms of release. This is not necessarily the order in which I think they fit in, but we're going to go ahead and break down what they provide and, how much they can actually benefit your account. So starting off, we have the blue Gojo here. This is the character everybody should have because of the rerollable SSR ticket. This is your primary target in terms of that ticket. He's going to leave after 7 turns, and when he performs a Black Flash, he's going to increase his critical rate. We're going to look at all of the kits at level 10. His first 2 skills are just damage dealing effects. It's just all they do. The first one being a Jujutsu damage, second one being Taijutsu. The third skill, though, he is going to increase his own damage by quite a bit, honestly, in terms of the standard banner characters. Then the ultimate technique, he's going to be doing over 1,000% of his own Jujutsu damage to all enemies. As I previously mentioned, he has the urgent business. This is going to be for 7 turns. He is going to leave the field, and he has the limitless technique, meaning he is immune to all attacks. Jumping over to Hollow Purple, the first is going to be a Jujutsu or a Taijutsu damage dealing attack. He also has Black Flash, just keep that in mind. We're not going to cover that anymore. We're just going to be covering the main kits. So the first one is a Taijutsu attack, and it decreases the enemy's Taijutsu and Jujutsu damage by a certain amount for 2 turns. Very good. The skill 2 is it is going to increase the selected enemy's damage received while also increasing their damage, but it's also going to increase Gojo's own damage output as well. So very good utility in this aspect. Skill 3 is going to be the Jujutsu attack, and it's going to increase his break damage, and it's going to decrease the enemy's damage by a little more actually than what he's going to allow them to increase their damage output. So very good synergy between his skill 2 and skill 3. Now the ultimate is it's a nuker, right? It is Hollow Technique Purple. As you can see here, it does a lot of ranged Jujutsu damage to all enemies, which is important to know because the original Gojo is, oh never mind, it is to all enemies too. I take that back, but the multipliers are higher for Hollow Purple. It also is going to decrease all enemies' ultimate count gauge by 2, and then he is going to be leaving the field once that is activated. He still does have strategic retreat, still 7 turns, and then he also has limitless technique, so he's not going to be receiving any damage. Now, Teen Gojo at skill 1 is going to be a combined damage equal to Taijutsu and Jujutsu to one enemy. Attracts the selected enemy's attacks to himself for 1 turn, and it fills the ultimate skill gauge more than other skills, so that is good to know. Skill 2 is the Limitless Cursed Technique. It's going to grant attack immunity for himself for 3 turns, increases his own damage received by 30%, and then it is going to increase his Jujutsu damage by 5% for 5 turns. Then, while increased own Jujutsu damage special is active, changes skill into Cursed Technique Disclosure. It's going to increase his own damage by 80% and increases his own crit rate by 30%. So initially when he starts, when you activate skill 2, you're going to be getting this. This is initially what you're going to be getting. Then after the turns of Limitless expire, then this will be activated. So that's how skill 2 works. Skill 3 is his ranged Jujutsu damage. It's also going to decrease the selected enemy's damage by 30%. And then his ultimate is blue, dealing a massive amount of ranged Jujutsu damage, but for 5 hits. Very valuable. And then, as you can see here, like I previously stated, he has the Limitless Technique. It's going to grant him attack immunity for 2 turns. And so it's just essentially this part up here. But as you can see, he does not have strategic retreat, so he is going to be around the whole fight, which is very, very important to know. Next up, we have Domain Expansion Gojo. He's going to be first skill. He's going to be dealing a combined of Taijutsu Jujutsu damage to a selected enemy for 3 turns. And then the skill restriction, if it is active, it's going to decrease the selected enemy's critical resistance by 15%, skill 2. Jujutsu damage to all enemies for 4 hits, decreases all enemies damage dealt by 25%. If your skill restriction is active, you can't use it. Skill 3, going to be ranged Jujutsu damage to a selected enemy. It's going to increase his own Jujutsu damage by 45%. And then again, if skill restriction is active, you can't use it. Now, the biggest part about him is his ultimate domain expansion. It's going to grant the sure hit effect. It's going to inflict all enemies with stun status for 2 turns. It's going to inflict them with the infinite void for 4 turns. It's going to decrease their ultimate gauge by 1. It's going to prevent all of them from using their ultimate skill for 4 turns. It's going to increase the damage they receive. And then depending on how high your urgent business is, it's going to additionally increase enemies damage received up to 200%. And you can see how they calculate it right here. It's also going to cancel out other domain expansions, and it's going to activate his skill restriction status. He cannot charge his ultimate skill gauge counter, and then it's going to increase his urgent business counter by 1. So jumping down here, urgent business, he has 9 turns, but as I previously mentioned, when you use his domain, let's say you're down to 4 turns, you activate the domain, boom, up to 5. He is in the zone state when he performs a black flash. It's going to increase his own Jujutsu damage and critical hit. And he also has the limitless technique. So right away, the weakest one, just completely frank, is going to be the blue Gojo. Now, you can make an argument that he's actually very valuable considering you can just get him just as a reroll. But in terms of raw damage output, I think he's actually the weakest out of all of them. Number 2, I actually think is going to be Hollow Purple. Given the fact that, yes, he does do a boatload of damage and his ultimate does a crazy amount of damage, if you don't kill with the ultimate, Hollow Purple is leaving, which is a major downside to him. If that wasn't the case, I think he would be higher up. Next up is actually going to be Teen Gojo, and I honestly think, let's do this. I think there's actually a gap between Teen Gojo to Hollow Purple and regular Gojo, and then Domain Expansion Gojo, obviously I think is number 1, but I think there's definitely a gap between these other 2 Gojos and Teen Gojo, just mainly because of the fact that he doesn't leave at all. He's able to put attack immunity up on himself, and his ultimate does a stupid boatload of damage for 5 hits. Don't undersell that because it is very valuable how many hits he actually does. And the fact that he is a yellow unit, I think is very, very good considering yellow is arguably the strongest color in the game so far. And he's fantastic. He's a must-have. And then Domain Expansion Gojo obviously is stupid powerful, being an excellent DPS character as well as a top-tier support character, especially for the likes of Toji and other great red attacking characters.